I would like to allow our panelists to provide a brief introduction about themselves, and then we'll go into some questions about their careers, how their graduate education prepared them for their careers, and all the fun things that they get to do in the world of research administration and other things research related. So I'm going to start with Dr. Tancy Vandecar-Burdin, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Tancy Vandecar-Burdin. I'm director of the Social Science Research Center here at ODU in the College of Arts and Letters. I've been with the center since it started in 1998. I started off as the associate director. I'm also the IRB chair. Did you want me anything else or just that general introduction?
That general introduction will be good, and then we'll learn more about it.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Blake. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the Dragas Center of Economic Analysis and Policy, and we're in the Strome College of Business. I arrived at ODU in 2015. At the time, we had a few publications and presentations that had been around for a few decades, but in 2017, we actually were named the Dragas Center. And so, generally speaking, we look at a whole host of regional research topics, from defense studies to different socioeconomic topics. And we present the state of the region, the state of the Commonwealth, and the economic forecasting project every year.
Good afternoon, Richard Bramer. I am the Director of Sponsored Programs at the ODU Research Foundation. I arrived at ODU in 2007 as a graduate student, right out of undergraduate, and after graduation, immediately started with the Research Foundation. So in 2009, the Research Foundation is the sponsored research cognizant agency for the university as it relates to sponsored programs. And let's see. Our role is to facilitate research, to make it easier on our investigators, but also to make sure safeguards are in place to ensure that we don't run afoul of any rules or regulations.
Hi, I'm Jackie Stein. I'm the Director of Research Development in the Office of Research. I've been at ODU for 15 years and have been in my current position for about 7. I will tell you all about what research development is in a little bit, but it's a relatively new field. It actually didn't even exist when I was thinking about what I wanted to do.
Well, thank you to our panelists for joining us today. I'm going to start with our first question. Can you briefly describe what you do? Who wants to start? Barbara, I'll let you start.
Okay. So the Dragas Center produces sort of some standards work that we've done for years and years and years, really from President Emeritus Jim Cook. And then we also engage in different types of research, either internal or externally sponsored. So at the Dragas Center, I handle all the day-to-day operations. I manage the staff. I provide graduate student support because we actively have GRAs in our center working really as analysts for the work that we do. We also employ undergraduate students from time to time. I'm the fiscal agent. I handle really the front end of the house. In addition to that hat, I also wear the researcher's hat. So I engage in original research. Since 2015, I've been an author of the State of the Region Report, State of the Commonwealth Report. And I support economic forecasting project that is led by Vinod Agarwal and Bob McNabb. So a wide variety of administration duties as well as actual research duties.
Thank you. We'll go to Jackie.
Yes, as I said, I'm the Director of Research Development, and I'll tell you a little bit about what that encompasses. There are really 4 main areas. One has to do with planning and university strategy, the Office of Research approach to research, what are areas where we might want to focus, but also what can we do, again, strategically, to help faculty be more competitive for opportunities. So things like seed funding, Some of our intramural funding competitions that we have for faculty are all part of that strategic component. Next is communication, both communication about research opportunities as well as research that is going on. Currently, our office is stretched a little thin. So I'm doing double duty on some things, and it means we're currently not doing science hubs, but that's one of my favorite things that we do. Science hubs are actually a time that we meet with the community, and you got it, a hub, to talk about all aspects of research at ODU, not just science. So that communication part is also very important. More and more research these days has a multidisciplinary flavor. Some of the most cutting edge advances that we are making in research are happening at the intersection of disciplines. So another important component of research development is supporting collaboration, helping people identify other folks, whether it's here at ODU or other universities, who might make good collaborators. Also helping people understand how they can work better together as a team. And then finally, and this is something we do a lot of, is we support proposal development. So there are many faculty here who are very competent proposal writers and don't need our help, but often when someone is newer to academia, they want some support, some help, some guidance, and we have proposal development specialists who actually work with them, help them ensure that they've picked the right funding opportunity, that they're writing a strong grant. We do a lot of workshops related to proposal development and funding opportunities as well. So there are lots of different aspects to research development, and currently we're more active in some areas than others, but it's a field where so many different kinds of skills are tapped. I think it is important to have good people skills, but it's pretty fascinating line of work. I always say I have the most interesting job at ODU.
All right, and we'll go to Richard.
Perfect. It's actually very fitting that I go after Jackie. Our two functions here at the university serve very closely, and we work very closely together. So one of Jackie's roles that she mentioned was proposal development, and her role, as noted, is to make the proposals better. And one of our group's main roles and responsibilities here is to make sure that those proposals are received by potential funders on time and in a compliant manner. So in the for-profit world, this may be called the capture process, the RFP process, the bidding process. And we support faculty through that to make sure that their great technical proposals make it to the decision makers and they can say yes and send us the funds to support their work, the students, and all the researchers on campus. Once an award arrives, our role transforms, and we serve a few different functions that really stretch us in our profession. We have to be lawyers, negotiators. We negotiate the contract to make sure it's language that's appropriate for an institution of higher education that allows students to publish their results. So we have that kind of core function area. We have a finance accounting function where we have to calculate, are we spending the money in a way where we're going to use it all? Are we running behind? Are we running ahead? What's going on with that? Submit financial reports. We are increasingly stretched to provide more expertise with regards to export controls. The federal government has increasingly placed burdens on universities related to sponsored research about both taking technology and information outside of the United States, but also any sort of deemed export that may occur within our institution with an individual who is from a foreign country. A final, I guess, piece that is interesting on the post-award side, once an award is made, is you get to learn a lot more about different parts of the university, because sponsored programs will touch human resources, will touch risk management, will touch, Tancy's going to talk about IRB and protection of human subjects. So you get a varied look at the institution, which is a great starting point for branching out in your career, should you want to stay in higher education. So.
And we'll let Tancy round us off on this question. What do you do?
Well, so as the name implies, we're a social science research center. So we do a lot of research with humans about their lived experiences. Our center specializes in survey research and qualitative research. We have a small call center where we do telephone surveys. We do a lot of web-based surveys, face-to-face interviews, focus groups, web-based surveys as well. And we also do some program evaluation. And when I talk to particularly new students that might come in the workforce, I talk about our work kind of falling into two big buckets. One of them is we work with faculty here at the university, as well as faculty often from other universities, as they develop their own research agendas and research proposals. And if they need data collected via survey or some other means, we can assist them with their grant proposal in terms of writing that methodology section, helping with budgeting expenses for collecting data. And then the other bucket is we do our own research. We have several contracts with various state agencies to do data collection on behalf of various state agencies so that they collect the data they need for federal reporting requirements and that kind of thing. And so we really work, we worked with probably every college on campus, probably the majority of the departments on campus in the past 25 years in terms of doing some kind of supporting faculty research via surveys and other types of data collection. And we work very closely with Richard and the Research Foundation as we submit proposals, and then they are instrumental in terms of managing those projects when they come back in and keeping us all out of trouble, out of jail, out of court, to make sure that we're not doing anything wrong. And we also do hire graduate students. We have right now we have 2 graduate research assistants that work in our center. And then we also, for like a large telephone survey or a mail survey or some other type of data collection effort, we also hire, they're often undergraduate students. They don't have to be, but they're here, they're on campus, they want work experience, and we're hiring. And so they get some true work experience. And we have, you know, my background is in sociology, criminal justice, and public administration, but we've done research and collected data on everything from broadband access in rural areas to data about mental health, data about services for children with disabilities, evaluating programs to help violent offenders re-enter the community. So I think I might have the most interesting job at ODU, because while we have the methodological expertise, we work with a lot of faculty and outside state, local agencies and businesses. And so we learn a lot about what they do too. So we help them collect the data they need, but at the same time, we learn a lot about what it is that interests them. And that's really great.
And see, if I had a research administration job, I think that variety is what would really excite me. But that's a great transition to our second question about what excites you about your work. And we're going to start with Richard.
All right. So when I started in the role, it was more that I got to directly assist investigators like Tancy or Dr. Youssef. So you get to see the fruit of your outcome supporting their research as they conduct interesting work. And it makes an impact on your community, as I only live a mile away. But that isn't what kept me here. I guess what keeps me here is that I'm, and I hope you all find this in your career, is that I get to work with a team that's warm, embracing, where ethical decision-making is not only encouraged, but applauded. I'm trying to think, the work is complex and engaging, and I guess 13 years later, I guess that is why I'm still here. Yeah.
So there's really no one exact way that your day goes, right? There's just so much variety across the day. Tancy, what excites you about your work at the Social Science Research Center?
Yeah, so I think, I talked a little bit about, already about learning these different content areas. I think another aspect of my work that I really enjoy is that we also engage with the community. Last night, myself and some civil engineers were at a community meeting in Southside Norfolk to talk to the community about flooding, their experiences with flooding, and what they would like to see happen in terms of adaptation solutions for them. And we were proposing a series of community engagement activities, posters, and information that we wanted to share with this kind of small group of civic leaders first, to see if this is something we can do for a bigger community engagement, and the hopes that we would collect this data about flooding in their neighborhood, and then be able to apply for some funding to help them implement some solutions. And so that's just kind of one example that, it's not just doing work here on campus, it's actually going out into the community, going to South Dakota and interviewing farmers and first responders about the issues with not having good internet access and the impacts on those communities. So the community engagement piece is big. Working with different faculty, ODU has got a wonderful faculty with so many different expertise, and I just really feel fortunate to be able to work with so many gifted faculty in a variety of areas. Working with students, I'm kind of somewhat removed from the kind of day-to-day immediate supervision of our undergraduate students, more so our graduate students, but just, hearing that some of them have gone on after, working at the SSRC to working in places like Mathematica or the Research Triangle Institute, RTI down in North Carolina. So, knowing that hopefully we've had some kind of positive impact on the students as well as the community. So I think those are all things that are really exciting and fulfilling about.
Barbara, what about you?
So I would say, since joining ODU in 2015, I've really enjoyed kind of integrating my personal philosophy on research and access here at the university. So before I came here, I had taught economics for many years. I had sort of really my 2 feet in a corporate world. I worked at Procter & Gamble and Hanes Sara Lee. And before I came to ODU, I was the lead economic researcher on a large global NATO project that was presented to Brussels. And so I came from a background where, really the corporate NGO need for research was very high. And then I had a chance to kind of come to a university, which it's intuitive that you've got all these great minds doing all these great things. So how do we get it out there? How do we integrate cross-functional teamwork? How do we integrate and form cross-functional research that matters? And the greatest joy that I have is that when I work on the State of the Region, and if you're not familiar with the State of the Region report, so that is our regional research report. It's a publication that goes out for distribution in October of every year. And we take, we gather the national statistics and we do a quantitative analysis on regional topics. And we put that in front of the community. And it's so valuable because, the number of times that I've heard, I didn't know we had this population in the state, or I didn't know that Hampton Roads was, one of the largest regions for, Filipinos. I mean, people just don't know. And so the State of the Commonwealth, which began in 2015, is for the entire state, and a copy of that goes to the governor. And this literacy piece, that's all that it is. It is a literacy piece in the positive to say, what's the current population? What are the demographics? Let's pull the latest economic data and analyze that, and getting it out there to the masses, getting it out there to folks that really, really need to make data-driven decision making, and perhaps was a little lost. And so that is what matters to me. But again, I am not typical for what you see on a lot of college campuses. I've always, have really seen higher education on campus as silos, right? Well, here are your engineers, and here are your, educators, and here are your economists and business people, that they were separated. But I feel like that time is over. Jackie mentioned that, cross-functional projects. I mean, that is the now. Interdisciplinary teams, that is the now. And that's been probably my greatest joy since being here.
Jackie, what would you like to add?
Oh, boy. Well, pretty much everything you all said. I guess, I'm a very curious person who just loves to learn about everything. So I've absolutely enjoyed learning about modeling and simulation, for example, since coming here. I had no background whatsoever in that, but boy, that's cool stuff. I think the only thing I'd want to add is that for research development, particularly, it is a new field. So really 20 years ago, people were just starting to do this, and ODU was very forward thinking in establishing at that point, just a position, a person who helped with grants. And that grew into now we've got a team of 5 people, and I think we're going to be growing that in the future. But being in a new field is exciting. Our professional organization, which is the National Organization of Research Development Professionals, NORDP, is incredible. And they just celebrated their 10th anniversary last year. That's how new the field is. But this, the annual conference is so good that it doesn't matter whether it's next door to Disneyland or whatever. People go to the conference and people don't want to miss a single panel or talk. It's just really neat to be part of something where you're making a difference on a day-to-day basis, but also that field and the professionalism, people are figuring out how to do this better and better, and being able to be part of that's exciting too.
So I appreciate that transition, because the next question really has to do with how your graduate education, the certification, credentials, professional associations, your work experience, how all of that has helped you in your career. So Jackie, I'm going to let you start. Since you raised kind of the professionalism aspect of it.
Well, post-research development is so new. There really haven't been any direct paths to work in research development. You can't, as so far as I know, you can't get a degree in it. And I happen to have a master's in counseling psychology because when I was in undergrad, I started working at a hotline, and I thought, this is cool stuff. That's what I want to do. And so I went ahead and I worked as a clinician in mental health for many years. I worked with children and adolescents, and there's just never enough money. So because I had an English undergrad degree, I had the confidence to, without even knowing what I was doing, to start writing grants, and found I happened to be good at it, actually, unusually good at it, I'll say. Because I thought early on that the grant that you're going after has to match exactly what you want to do. Funders want to fund. They want to give the money away. That's what their job is. But they're looking for those projects that are exactly a fit for what they want to do. So you have to be very careful about that. So I was lucky. I had great success. I wrote grants and started new programs for many years, and had children myself who then became adolescents. And I kind of got to the point where I realized I need to be putting more of my emotional energy into my own adolescence as opposed to other people's. I've been working in mental health for over 20 years at that point. And I saw this ad for a job at ODU. And I thought, I didn't even know there was such a thing. And I applied. I will say that both my degree, which getting a degree in counseling psych, you're obviously working on people skills. But it also involves a lot of writing. And my English undergrad degree, of course, involves a great deal of writing. So my academic training really did help prepare me for this. But I think there are a lot of different paths that one could take. You certainly could come at this field from a practitioner in the sciences, for example, having some experience with grants and grant writing and having good listening skills, being good at articulating your understanding of things to people who may be completely new to it. Those are things that are important. And I've already mentioned NORDA and how important our professional association is. We've done a lot in terms of developing people professionally in research development beyond the conference. There's now a whole onboarding series that people can do online, basically, if they're interested in entering a position in research development. And as I mentioned, I do hope to be hiring in the future. So if this sounds interesting to you, keep that in mind.
So we're gonna go to Richard, and I'd be interested to hear how Zach talked a lot about the writing and the communication, but successful grants that are, proposals, but that also then are received also have to be managed well. So I'd love to hear from Richard about how your background has gotten you to this point.
Sure. So my first, I guess, graduate educational degree is in higher education administration. Spent a lot of time in this room, actually, back when it was the education building. That provided kind of a framework to help you the very interesting nature in which higher education institutions operate. It helped me understand the faculty perspective, even though I'm not a faculty member. I'll understand that they have demands when it comes to teaching, research service, tenure reviews, as we were just talking about before the Zoom came on. So being understanding of that and the ways they're pulled makes me more effective in my position. After a few years, I decided to return to school, and I attained an MBA from this college. I can say that's really helped me in my career. Sure, the accounting information I picked up has been useful when I have to interact with financial people within the Research Foundation or within Old Dominion. But I think what was really impactful was the organizational development or the human resources sort of class, because those are strategies that I've used as I've grown into supervision. How can I be a more effective mentor, leader, understanding people's motivations? Why do people leave jobs when, especially I don't want them to leave, understanding those things. And it's not money, it's usually not why people leave. It's leadership of their culture or something else. But and finally, about 6 years into my career, I studied for and passed the Certified Research Administrator's Test. This is done by and Barbara can correct me because she is also one, the Research Advisory Council, I believe. RACC is the organization that provides these certifications. There's a regular CRA, which I am, but there's also a financial certified research administrator for individuals on various campuses who help with the financial aspects of research administration. There's a pre-award certified research administrator for my colleagues who help administrators submit proposals. And I think I'm leaving one out. Post-award, it's just the general one, the certified. So that's a really helpful tag to have on my resume. But also it forces me to do my continuing education credits. So every year I have to get a certain amount of hours and serve on committees or go to a conference keep up to date with current statutes, regulations, so that I can never have to take that test again, but also I can maintain my status as a certified research administrator.
All right, Barbara, you want to build on?
Yeah, so I want to talk to everyone sort of watching right now and who will watch it later on re-record. Let me tell you a little bit about my background because I want to dispel any myths. And I think you've already heard from the two previous speakers that, there's no program that's going to give you every credential and every, KSA, knowledge, skills, and abilities that you need to be in this work. And for that reason, I say, let's be open about it. Sometimes I think grant writing and the material around it just seems to be shrouded in mystery. What's the perfect proposal and how are you going to get it approved and getting money? And so there's a lot of growth space here, whether you're really good at finances or maybe you're really good at people and you would love to be a part of a survey project. So there's a lot of ground here. So my bachelor's is from High Point University in International Business and Spanish. I went to the UK for my master's in international studies where I focused on economics at the University of Leeds. And then my doctorate is from George Washington University, Higher Education Administration. So, you can come from anywhere and have a background set. They say the number one problem in business is communication. I think you've already heard, you need to be a good communicator. And, those proposals, if you're in the writing, thinking about it or working, maybe you're working from a grant, right? You have to be meticulous and mindful of what are your deliverables? What are your timelines? What, are you under an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement? All of these things. So there's a lot of space here. And so don't think that, oh, well, my bachelor's is engineering. Don't take yourself out of this market because there's tremendous potential. And I think we've already heard one possible list of job openings over here. I will plug myself because I know Tancy's going to plug herself next too. So I always have openings, especially if you are interested. Maybe you don't have a background, maybe it's a more technical background and you're thinking, gosh, how can I get into this? Come to Dragas Center and we'll work together on a project. So that's already one foot into where you need to go, right? So there's a lot of opportunities for ODU students on campus to have that experiential learning, right? To get in there and learn what it's all about, see if it's for you. As already been stated, I'm a CRA. I'm actually on the national board. I write the test questions for the exam, and it's a fun job. And there's so much. There's so much in research administration. There's the budgeting aspect. There's actually, the deliverables and maintaining confidential records. I mean, there's so many pieces. And then there's the actual research side, right? Where if you want to be someone who participates in creating surveys, you want to be the person who is participating in quantitative analysis and doing regression analysis. So there's so many pieces here. So I hope that you really can if it's something that sounds of interest to you, take the time to explore it. I know probably everyone on this panel would talk to anyone for further additional information, and I would put that plug in to say on mine, just look for the Dragas Center, odu.edu, and send me an email. I'd love to talk to you, but there's so many pathways here. A lot of things are brand new. They've not been around for decades, and there's a lot of variability on what degrees you have. So don't let that limit you.
Take us home.
Yeah, well, this is so great. And I'm going to kind of maybe come at it at a slightly different perspective. So in terms of I'm looking at the question, how has your graduate education, helped in your career? It really was like everything. And I'll try to get there very quickly, but I want to back up. My bachelor's degree is in criminal justice with a minor in psychology from Muscle Sage College in upstate New York. But I went into that major because in high school I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and I see we've got a JD in the audience here. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. This was the time of like LA law. I'm really dating myself, and Law and Order, and thinking, yeah, I'm going to go in the courtroom and kick some butt. But I did a mock trial in my senior year of high school, and I did not perform the way that I wanted to, and it scared me. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that, but I'm still interested in society and criminal justice in general. Did that degree. After I finished, I came to Virginia, was working in mental health. Also, I was working at a residential treatment center for juvenile female sex offenders. And I said, yeah, this is not where I need to be. This is not the space for me. I didn't feel like I was making a difference. And so I'm like, let me go back to school. So I applied to ODU in the Master's in Applied Sociology program. I was able to get a graduate research assistantship. I worked for a faculty member the first semester, and then Dr. Carol Seifert stole me away, and I worked for her the rest of my master's degree. And she was interested in the educational and occupational aspirations of rural youth. I was interested in crime. I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, I'll work for you. But we did a lot of survey work. I went to Alaska and presented results of her research to Native Alaskan children. And then, you know, finished up my master's degree here, I was actually working as a magistrate in the city of Norfolk. And Dr. Carol Seifert, who I've been working for as a grad student, came to me after I've been working for about a year and said, hey, I'm thinking about starting this research center here at ODU. We're going to do a national search for the director. I need an associate director. You know, for the first year or two, you'll be funded by the university, but then you'll be funded by grants. You might not have a job in a year or two. I don't know if the center's going to take off, but hey, what do you say? And I'm like, sure. You know, it's research. I knew I'd be working with Carol closely, at least for some time, and she was wonderful. And that was 1998, and I'm still here. Started as associate director, became the director in 2019. While I was working for the center, I had my director at the time was like, you know, ODU will pay for you to get your doctorate degree. They'll pay for a class a semester. And he didn't say it this way, but basically he's saying you'd be pretty stupid if you didn't take advantage of that to get pretty much a PhD, you know, largely paid for. So I entered, I guess it was probably 2000 or 2001, entered the PhD program in what was then the Public Administration and Urban Policy here at ODU, and got my doctorate degree. And so then when the opportunity came about for me to become director of the center, I had those credentials behind me. But if I hadn't worked for Dr. Carol Seifert, didn't have that connection with her as a graduate research assistant, I probably would not be here, you know, because she reached out to me because I had worked for her. She knew what my capabilities were, and, you know, asked me to help get the center off the ground. And I knew nothing about running a research center, but I kind of learned on the job.
There are lots of good opportunities to learn on the job.
Yes, yes.
But I do, so we have one last question before we do the open Q&A. And the question is, what advice do you have for graduate students considering careers in research administration? So, Tancy, you're gonna start us off this round.
Okay. Well, just kind of following up on where, you know, how I got here. So definitely, you know, get connected to faculty who you connect with that they don't even necessarily have to have like the same exact research interest. It certainly helps, but, you know, like I said, I was interested in crime. Dr. Carol Seifert was a sociologist, so it's you know, adjacent, and it's areas that weren't exactly in line with mine. But, you know, it afforded me the opportunities and the connections that led to the job that I have now. And so I definitely feel like you should try and expand your network as much as possible in terms of not thinking, okay, kind of having that tunnel vision, like this is what I want to do. I'm only going to focus on this thing. I think, as we've all talked about, everything's interdisciplinary, everything's connected now. And so you'll really be limiting yourself if you kind of keep those blinders on. So definitely networking, not only with faculty, but with your fellow graduate students. You know, they can help, you know, make connections in the business world and the government sector and nonprofits, whatever it might be. So just really taking advantage of those relationships, and kind of keeping an open mind as to, you know, this might not be exactly the path that I plan to go, but let's just see where it takes me. And the opportunity is there. It's interesting. I'll try it for a while. If it doesn't work out, you know, I'll have some good experience under my belt. And I will kind of reiterate what I think all the panelists have said in this line of work, particularly if you're writing grants. writing skills are really key. Having good, communication skills in general, but written communication skills are really key to be able to say, these are the goals and objectives of my study. This is what I want to do, and here's how I'm going to do it. So that's a little scattered. That's what. There's my answer.
Jackie, what advice do you have to offer?
Well, what Tancy said, but I guess I would say, take a grant writing class. The university actually offers, through several different departments, grant writing classes. So take a grant writing class, even if it's maybe not part of the degree that you're seeking. It's going to help you out. I think really in just about any direction you would choose to take your career, because it will help you understand how to analyze a problem and write about solutions persuasively. That's really what a grant is, right? The other thing I want to add is if it just so happens that English is not your first language, don't let that dissuade you. We have had some staff in our office who came to research development initially speaking other languages, growing up speaking other languages, but who just really focused on developing their ability with this particular type of writing. And they were fantastic staff people. So I wanted to make sure to say that you don't have to grow up speaking English to be successful at grant writing. I won't name names, but one of our strongest faculty in grant writing, the strongest grants I've read from anyone at ODU, is someone who grew up speaking another language. He didn't learn English until he was in grad school. So, what else would I say? Learn as much as you can about different types of research. If you're interested in research development, then you want to understand a little bit about types of research. You'll be better able to help someone. In research development, we are not typically subject matter experts. Obviously, if somebody's writing a grant that deals with children's mental health, I do have something to contribute. but that's not the case most of the time. So you need to understand a fair amount about different approaches to research, different kinds of methodology. That's very helpful. And the other thing I would say is see whether there is a grant opportunity that you can assist with. If a faculty member is developing a grant, find out how you can be involved. And your faculty member might be surprised, but is likely to find a place for you.
So I do want to plug before we transition to Richard's advice that Career Pathways has also offered workshops on kind of overview of grant writing for graduate students. And Jackie's actually hosted quite a few of those workshops, and the recordings of those workshops are available on the Career Pathways YouTube channel. And one of them actually focuses on grant opportunities for graduate students. So please feel free to check that out on the ODU Career Pathways YouTube channel. And we'll go to Richard for your advice.
Be professionally forward. I'm probably speaking to the choir here, but don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call what you might think would be a decision maker in an organization you're interested in, and say, I'm interested in working for you. How can I learn more? Or maybe there's not an opportunity now, but here's what I think I could bring to the team. And I had a call yesterday out of the blue from someone who's employed by ODU, and was very impressed, and we'll be continuing the conversation. I guess, let's see. Secondly, I'll echo Jackie's English as a second language comment. We get agreements that are in German, Spanish, and Japanese, Chinese, and we get to send those out for translation. That's a valuable skill. And third, I know it may seem like a niche sort of career path, but as I spoke about at the beginning, it's a great launching point for a career if you want to get into industry or go work for the federal government and work on their side where they're making the grants. It's a place to get a lot of experience on any campus. And maybe I'll add a fourth. It's very portable. I know we've talked a lot about ODU, but there's institutions of higher education and research organizations everywhere. So you can use this skill if you're a military spouse or just want to move around. So that would be my advice.
And Barbara. Okay, I know, right? So I'm going to start general and then I'm going to get really specific. So number one, this is my talk that I tell every one of my graduate students. I'm going to tell it to you. This is your campus. These are your resources. Go and get what you need. It's here. You are a student. Take advantage of all of these different opportunities. It's here on this campus. If you need help finding it, ask around, right? So that's number one. Number two is there are so many opportunities as students to work on different types of projects, and definitely, keep your ear to the ground, go onto LinkedIn, find me, connect with me. I mean, build what's really what we're talking about now is social capital. What is your social capital to find those experiences or those positions that you would be interested in? So for my GRAs, I've basically not had anybody to stay in higher education. They're at the port, they're at the Army Corps of Engineers, they're at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So research is far ranging, and a lot of times when you see these positions as analyst, okay, so the good research skills, the good writing skills, the methodical way to look at any type of an analysis, these are all skills that you can see all over the industry. And I actually know of 2 openings right now. So I mean, so there's a pathway for you for sure. One thing that I will just say, in case you didn't know it, I'm sorry on this one, but if you're looking for positions, obviously we have the ODU.edu job boards that you can go to. Well, the ODU Research Foundation has their own set of job boards, right? So that's a different website that you would navigate to see what they have for openings. But there really is a place for everyone here. You can do the books, you can translate something out of German, you can do original research, right? In higher education and in various industries, there's a place for you if you're interested in it. So graduate degrees are great to exercise your communication, your writing, your higher order thinking skills, plus certifications that give you experiences where maybe you really need them, right? So there's a lot out there, so I encourage you to follow up.